I'm just going to leave that one last.
No, we're not talking about that exciting. Okay?
Good evening, everybody. Let me begin by apologizing for all of you for my tardiness. I got caught in my job as an attorney in court, and there was 26 people arrested today, so it was a little bit crazy. And I apologize to all of you for being a little late. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Brown, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today? That's okay. Ms. Secretary, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Board, Mr. Brown, here. Mr. Ferre, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Gutierrez,
here.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Vasquez, Mr. Walters, Secretary Wolf.
Larissa, this is Leonard Board. I just didn't have the unmute in time.
Thank you. Secretary Wolf,
Here.
Treasurer Rodriguez Pina, Vice Chair Fano, Chair Martinez.
Here. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Very good. Prior to approval of the agenda, we are removing item 8E that has been sent back to committee. I anticipate that it will be back in the next board meeting, Mr. Director.
Correct.
Other than that change, are there any other changes that need to be made to the agenda? Mr. Rodriguez? Then I announce that the agenda is set, ready to begin. Council, can you ask for declarations of conflicts, please?
Do any members of this board have to report any conflicts with items on the agenda?
No.
Leonard Board, none.
Thank you, all of those. Citizens' comments. I encourage, as anyone knows, that during my tenure, I strongly encourage any citizens' comments. Mr. Council, has anyone requested to speak to the board today?
No, sir.
Very good. We're moving on. Now, we're going to approve two sets of minutes today because on the last board meeting, we lost a quorum prior to approving the minutes from the August meeting. Can I have a motion for each individual? Let's start with the August 30th, 2016 minutes. Can I have a motion for that? Moved by Board Member Weinberg, seconded by Mr. Vasquez. It's open now for discussion. Discussion's open. Hearing none, discussion closed. All in favor of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, it passes. Can I have a motion for the September 27, 2016 minutes? Mr. Vasquez, seconded by Ms. Weinsberg. Open for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, item discussion is closed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, the item passes unanimously. The Executive Director's Report. Mr. Rodriguez, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This last month, many activities. I'll highlight some of the critical ones. First one, and I think we mentioned it at the Operations Committee and the Budget and Finance Committee, is our work program schedule. But just to refresh and to let the audience know, November 30th, there's going to be a joint Budget and Finance and Operations Committee meeting. The work program will be on the agenda as a discussion item. We anticipate to get feedback from the board. We will be bringing that item back in the January joint Budget and Finance and Operations Committee meeting for an endorsement to the full board and approval, formal approval of the work program January of 2017 at our board meeting. In December, we anticipate the board approval of the strategic plan, strategic master plan that we've been working on. The critical nature of that, as we explained at the Operations Committee, is that there are projects in the strategic plan that we're moving into our work program, so we will show how that is all going to work together. This past month, Marie Schaefer and I participated in a teleconference with the Florida Transportation Commission, where we updated, revised, replaced performance measures for the expressway authorities. As we in the toll industry have matured into all electronic tolling, a lot of the measures needed to be updated. So we are going to finalize that. The board will take, the Transportation Commission We'll take a vote later this year, and I will bring it back with a list. It'll be consistent for all of the toll agencies, including Florida's Turnpike. They also went through a full day of meetings with the transit agencies, the transit authorities. So they updated all of those measures as well. One of the big ones was safety. And you know that every year, safety is a big issue, and this last year was the first year that MDX met the safety. We were at .27. The issue with safety is that, you know, one fatality is too many. So, you know, the goal in a toll road is that you want to be better than the non-toll road. But at the end of the day, we can do so much engineering, we can do so much enforcement, we can do so much education. It's still somewhat out of our control. So what we talked about in the safety component is speaking about those engineering, education, and enforcement efforts and making it a reportable item, not a measure that you pass or fail type. So that's just one of them. There was many others in the finance world, recognition of revenue, when it comes in, variance of revenues. So we'll be bringing that back. This past month, we experienced Hurricane Matthew. And, you know, just so the board knows, we were asked to lift tolls pursuant to the protocol that's set by all of the toll agencies in the Florida Department of Transportation. We lifted tolls Wednesday, October 5th at 8 p.m., and we reinstated the tolls at midnight, Sunday, October the 9th. There was some question about reinstatement. We're going to work with the Department of Transportation to clarify those. The cost, excluding the actual 24 hours of the storm where we turned off the system, the cost was roughly $2 million of revenue. This past month, I participated in, along with Tampa's Hillsborough Expressway Authority, Florida's Turnpike, in the grand opening of the Centralized Customer Service Center. It's at the West Oaks Mall in Ocoee, Florida. Beautiful facility, state-of-the-art customer service center. But more importantly, the vendor has already secured a site here in Miami. It's off of the Palmetto and 36th Street, roughly 79th Avenue. There is a site. They'll be building it out, and it'll be functional for next year. I believe it's next spring that it'll be a walk-in center. A question was asked earlier today, what is this centralized customer service center? If you have an issue with a toll in the state of Florida, you'll make one phone call, and everything will be resolved, regardless of what agency you went through. So that's the level of customer service that we want to provide. In your packages, I believe we put it in the blue folder. I know this is an item that we'll discuss later in the agenda. It's item 8D. But as requested by Board Member Board, we put a table of the three projects, 83628, 83611, and 87410, the parcels that have been negotiated, acquired, how they've been, and how the policy that we're going to discuss applied, because we made some modifications to delegation authority to line things up. And the question was asked, can you give us a table? That table is provided in your folders for your information. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude my report.
Any board members have any questions for Mr. Rodriguez?
Chairman.
Treasurer Rodriguez Pena.
Mr. Rodriguez, you mentioned the financial impact of Matthew. You said, is that a reimbursable?
No, it is not. In fact, and it's, I was going to let Ms. Schaefer say that later, but this financial that's in the package is for the previous month. So in next month's financials, we will be putting under the revenue piece, we will be putting a line item because it is not a reimbursable. We'll be taking that out of reserve.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. Do we have some type of insurance for events like that? Any type of anything that we can do, business interruption, or I don't know the appropriate terminology?
We do have business interruption insurance, but in this case, we chose to suspend tolls. If the toll system was damaged, the insurance would cover the loss of revenue at that point.
That's the difference. Okay. All right. I guess I'll work with staff to look at the impact of this and really short-term and long-term, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the board, and see what the implications so we can prognosticate as best as possible what does that mean to our bottom line. All right, thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Treasurer, for looking into that. I do appreciate that greatly. Any other questions? Ms. Gutierrez or Mr. Board on the phone, do you have any questions for the director?
No,
No.
Thank you.
Everything is very clear.
Moving on. Mr. Counsel, the general counsel report, should we include that as some of the regular agenda items so we do it all at once, or is there? Or
Yeah, I was going to say that I speak enough during the regular agenda items. You don't need to hear from me now.
Then we'll do it that way. Mr. Ferre is not here, so we don't have an MPO representative report unless, Mr. Director, you have any information to share.
The only thing I would share is that the MPO meeting was moved from last week to tomorrow at 2 o'clock. The MPO committees have been taking place this week, and MDX has been represented. The focus of the meetings is the planning implementation of the SMART plan. No, the MPO meeting is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. There is a committee, there was a subcommittee that was meeting today. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Treasurer report. The floor is yours, Mr. Rodriguez-Pina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an uneventful month. As you can see, we have a little bit of expenses in the operations, but it's pretty flat for a month, nothing eventful. Let me see if Ms. Schaefer, would you like to add anything to our report?
I think that was well said. The only comment I have is in next month's report, overall, we're about 1.5 below the budget. Obviously, we already know that we have an impact for the month of October of $2 million, so we're going to have to make up that $2 million, another $500,000 in the month of October. So we're going to have to look at our expenses. Traffic is pretty much flat at this point. It's meeting the forecast. So we're going to have to make up that $2 million over the next couple of months for a fiscal year.
I'm going to convene maybe an ad hoc committee, come up with a special event committee to see how we make up the $2 million and find a way to maybe have a highway party or something where we can charge people to attend to make up for those $2 million in lost revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from Mr. Treasurer? Anything else? Any questions to the Treasurer for the report today? Hearing none, moving on. The committee reports, Mr. Director, we will add to the general agenda. We have no consent agenda today, so let's go to the regular agenda. Agenda A, Council, please.
Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll read A and B together because I'll
fine.
deal with it both together.
Very good.
MDX procurement contract number MDX 15-12, legal representation and civil action brought against MDX. Approval to remove contract cap due to pending matter related to litigation in Circuit Court case number 15-04267 CA23, involving a bid protest filed by Munilla Construction Management, LLC, doing business as MCM, endorsed by the Policy and Planning Committee on October 20th, 2016. Item B, MDX procurement contract number MDX 16-03, legal representation and civil action brought against MDX. Approval to remove contract amount cap due to pending matter related to litigation in Circuit Court, case number 16-1946, CA-01, involving a bid protest filed by the Munilla Construction Management, LLC, doing business as MCM, endorsed by the Policy and Planning Committee on October 20th, 2016. If you don't mind, I'd like to handle both these matters together. Both items are related to two cases involving a bid protest litigation filed by MCM. Based on the procedural status of the two cases, we are asking to remove caps so we don't have to return to request additional authority for budget. For informational purposes, I work closely with Mr. DeLeon, and no steps are taken without MDX consultation, so I'm well aware of what is being billed. In addition, I review every bill line by line. To date, we are approximately $200,000 for both cases. We are at a point that future expenses will be relatively minimal compared to the overall costs. I'll explain. As you know, in MCM1, we wanted the trial court on the substantive case, but the judge ruled against us on attorney fees with no explanation provided. MCM appealed the substantive case, and MDX won the appeal. Additionally, MCM requested a rehearing, but that rehearing was denied. The remainder of the case is the matter related to attorney fees. We filed our appellate brief already, and MCM filed their brief last Friday. If the court deems oral arguments are necessary, the case will probably be heard in 2017, early 2017. In MCM 2, we won in the trial court on the substantive part of the case, and MCM did not appeal the decision. MDX moved forward for attorney fees, and the judge ruled against us. In a ruling, it provided no detailed explanation. MDX appealed the decision on the attorney fees. The issue on both cases are almost identical, so therefore the remaining costs on both cases will be minimal. If the appellate court rules in our favor on MCM 1, I would assume the MDX would achieve the same result on MCM 2. The opposite is also true. If MDX loses the appeal on MCM 1, I would review the decision and recommend to the executive director and the board whether it's worth moving forward on MCM 2. These matters were thoroughly discussed at the Policy and Planning Committee on October 20th, 2016.
Anyone wish to move the item? Moved by Board Member Weinberg, seconded by
I'll second it.
Mr. Brown. I heard it on this side. I wasn't sure what that. Mr. Brown, now, item is not open for discussion. Does anyone have any questions for the general counsel or for staff? I'll start with those here on the dais. No question?
The only thing I would add is that
Please, Mr. Brown, of course.
that staff brings back a report either quarterly or monthly on the amount of attorney's fees being expended, so that we can always be abreast of how much money we're spending as we go forward. Since we lost $2 million, thanks to Matthew.
I think that's an excellent idea. Can we add that as a friendly amendment to the, or do we need to do that, or is that okay, just the instruction?
Actually, that's just the direction to us, and we will.
Perfect. Excellent suggestion, Mr. Brown, and I think that's an excellent idea. Does anyone have any objection to that? No? Any other?
Just volunteer for the ad hoc committee.
Any other questions from the dais? Hearing none. Ms. Gutierrez, Mr. Board, any questions from those on the phone?
All good.
None from me, thank you.
All right. Discussion now is closed on A and B. Council will need to take a vote on each one individually. Is that correct?
That's correct.
For regular agenda item A, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes unanimous. For item B, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Council, item C, please.
Okay, item C, MDX procurement contract number MDX 17-01. Legal representation and potential appeal of final judgment against MDX, endorsed by the Policy and Planning Committee on October 20, 2016. Authorization for the executive director to enter into a contract with a highly experienced appellate attorney to provide consultation to the current trial attorneys in preserving the record for appeal and lead all appellate efforts against a potential final judgment in the case Electronic Transactions Consultants Corporation versus MDX, case number 12-46272 CA40. Authorization for the executive director to compensate other firms for the time expended in the review of case materials, provided opinions, and the time spent discussing the appellate process. Okay.
Who wishes?
You want me to explain?
Actually, let's move the item first. Item is being moved by Ms. Weinberg, seconded by Mr. Brown. Would you, or by Treasurer Rodriguez-Chena? Now it's open for discussion for you to present the item,
Okay.
Council.
The board has been briefed on the current status of the case during the shade meeting and email updates. Currently, the trial judge has advised that he was overruling his partial summary judgment motion. He set his schedule for briefs regarding prejudicial effects and evidentiary issues that concern MDX, and also set a potential oral argument for November 16, 2016. To be frank, we really have no idea how the judge will rule on this motion. He can deny the motion without a hearing and enter a final judgment before the 16th of November. In most instances, I would probably give you my best opinion, but in this case, it's proven that trials are unpredictable, and so are the judges that preside over them. In late August 2016, and prior to our fourth mediation, the executive director and I anticipated a significant judgment could be entered against MDX. At that time, as representatives of MDX, we believe that the MDX board should have the option to have an appellate attorney look at the case and handle the appeal. Therefore, we conducted research to seek out the most effective appellate attorneys in Miami-Dade County. After research was conducted, we contacted numerous attorneys to determine interest, availability, and whether there were any conflicts of interest. We spoke to several appellate attorneys, and 5 were forward documents related to the case. We advised them to keep track of their time and effort as we would compensate them. As a result of our efforts, the executive director and I are recommending engaging Rodolfo Serrando of Holland & Knight. Mr. Sarando is a former appellate judge for the 3rd District Court of Appeals here in Miami, and now a partner at Holland and Knight that leads the appellate practice group. We spoke to a group of exceptional attorneys that were all accomplished, and I feel the quality of individual that we approached all would have done an excellent job. However, the recommendation is based on Mr. Sarando's firsthand knowledge of the appellate court, his exceptional reputation as an appellate lawyer, his extensive credentials, and finally, his very impressive appellate team, which consists of himself and 6 other appellate attorneys who were partners. The executive director and I met with Mr. Sarando, and we're very impressed by the contents of our discussion and his presence. Mr. Sarando has agreed to an hourly rate of $680, which represents 20% discount of his normal rate of $850. And he will be the only Holland and Knight attorney engaged until, if ever, a final judgment is entered. If a final judgment is entered, the hourly rate for all the Holland and Knight attorneys assisting on this matter will be discounted by 20%. Additionally, we recommend to immediately engage the services of Mr. Sarando. Although no final judgment has been entered, the additional time would be advantageous as Mr. Sarando could consult with the trial attorneys, familiarize himself with the case, and provide guidance in the preservation of the record for appellate review. In addition, in order to prepare for an appeal, Mr. Sarando will review the entire record, including discovery, and will be in a position to provide a separate perspective on the case. I would like to state for the record, this is not a reflection on the trial attorneys. The appellate practice is different and distinct, and it should be noted that Western Road has an exceptional appellate attorney. However, the executive director and I believe that after reviewing what has happened in this case, the potential outcome, and the overall effect of an adverse judgment could have on MDX, that is in the best interest of MDX to hire a highly experienced appellate attorney from another firm to review the matter from a different perspective and handle the appeal. This matter was thoroughly discussed at the Policy and Planning Committee on October 20, 2016.
Okay, the item has been moved. We've heard it. Who wishes to, does anyone have any questions here on the dais? I actually want to clarify something, though, Counsel. You mentioned in your presentation 4 mediations. In fact, there has been a total of 9 mediations in this case, 4 after the trial, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
So for everyone to be aware of what's been going on with this particular judge, and I believe we've had 9 mediations, 5 prior to trial, and then 4 since there's a conclusion, which I think is unheard of in my experience, but that's not going into opinion of the other matters. So that's where we're at. Other than that, does anyone have any other questions? Mr. Rodriguez-Pena, of course. Excuse me, Treasurer. I apologize.
It's all the same. Thank you, sir. General Counsel, you said that we're compensating. We gave it our material to be reviewed by a group of other lawyers before we vetted in the vetting process. I guess at some point in time, I'd like to know a little bit about the budget and the allocation. I'm just, again, feel a certain responsibility and oversight for what we're spending there. And then my second question is, there is no way of anticipating a budget for this acquisition of this attorney?
No, there is no way. At this point, no. Okay. There was an attorney who gave us what he believed hours that would be spent on an appeal, and he was kind of, although very, very informative and very good, he was kind of non-committal on well, is this the budget? Well, I really can't tell you that until I really dig into the thing.
Mr. Chairman, just a continuation. I guess part of my concern is that we have an expectation or have some type of a monitoring system that say at some point in time there's a feasibility study needs to be made. You know, we're going to have an open checkbook over here for this process. What are our potential losses? And I think it's important that we maintain that communication. Again, I have a thorough respect for staff and executive director and our legal counsel. I think just from a public perspective, we need to make sure that we are analyzing the implications of our decisions, and particularly to the budget, and in light of, you know, the information of the impact of revenue by Matthew.
Mr. Treasurer, you're absolutely correct. And this is all in anticipation of a potential appeal. We are not only going to track Mr. Sarando's hours in consultation during this last stage, which is very short. We've got till November 16th. If there is a need for an appeal because there's an order entered, then we will discuss it with him. We will call for a shade meeting. We will discuss it with the board. We will bring him in to discuss with the board, as we've done at every stage where there's got to be a decision or moving forward. As far as your question with the other attorneys, we met with all of those attorneys. We gave them information. We asked them to track their time. Whether they bill us for it or not, we don't know. But we asked them to track it and to send us, because we'd like to compensate them for that time. We didn't want them to review information, for no reason. So whether they actually do it but it's not a lot of hours, and we will report to you specifically what we expend on that.
Any other questions? Ms. Gutierrez, Mr. Board, on the phone, any questions for
No.
Mr.
None
Board?
here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for responding. All right, I will now close discussion. All in favor of the item, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes unanimously. Item D, please.
Okay, item D, approval of revisions to MDX property acquisition policy and MDX delegation of authority policy endorsed by the Policy and Planning and Operations Committee on October 20th, 2016. I'll do the explanation. Oh, go ahead. Move the item first.
Sure. Anyone wish to move the item? Mr. Brown will move it, seconded by Ms. Weinberg. It is open now for discussion. Council, if you can please present the item.
We are recommending clarifications for two policies today for more transparency and openness. The policies are the delegation of authority policy and the property acquisition policy. I work closely with all staff involved in the use of these policies, but mostly engineering, and invite them to offer any opinions if necessary. First, start off with the delegation of authority policy. The clarification for this policy is simply remove the language having to do with the delegation of authority related to property acquisitions and replace the language with a simple statement that refers the reader to the property acquisition policy. Personally, as a lawyer and based on my experience handling matters in MDX, I would like to limit the places where we simply restate our current policies, because if we change one policy and do not go back and change the other, we could put ourselves in a conflicting situation. The next policy is the property acquisition policy. We did not change the policy. However, what we did is to clarify the policy and document our current practices. We added sections concerning business damage claims and relocation costs, which are consistent with the FDOT right-of-way procedures and our past practices. We added some language to the policy to place a cap on the executive director's settlement authority. I'll start with the property acquisition section. Authority to make an offer. As you're well aware, we make offers based on appraisals by an independent third party. As before, the executive director has the authority to make offers up to $350,000. Options between $350,000 and $500,000, and the board must approve all offers above $500,000. That did not change at all. The authority to make an offer. As you're well aware, we make offers based on appraisals. On the third party. Excuse me, settlement authority. That's what I meant. The settlement authority we changed. We made a slight enhancement to the settlement authority based on our past experience, which I will highlight. The settlement authority did not change for its initial offers of $350,000 or below. The policy is the executive director has the authority to settle for 25% higher than the original appraisal report value, or $100,000, whichever is greater, and this is based on our past experiences. In the past, we've made offers on properties for $25,000, and the property owner wanted more, $10,000 more, and we agreed to settle for approximately $8,000 more. $8,000 is 25% more than 25% of $25,000, but it would definitely be economically beneficial, as tendering $2,000 more would save us on a whole bunch of legal-related costs. So that's why that specific language is there. On all initial offers above $350,000, the enhancement in the policy will be that the executive director has the authority to settle for 25% above the original appraisal report value, or up to $2 million, whichever is less. The $2 million cap is consistent with the executive director's supplemental authority for contracts. The next section, we added this section, the business damage claim section, and be advised, this is our practice, and we've been doing this since our existence. Let me briefly explain a simplified process for a business damage claim. Business damage claims and property acquisitions are two separate and distinct matters. There is no initial offer for a business damage claim by MDX. Once MDX provides a business owner with an initial offer for acquisition of their property, the business owner has 180 days to provide MDX a claim for what the business owner believes the damages are to their business by the taking of their property. Once the initial offer is received, if the ask is less than $25,000, MDX will conduct a staff review for the validity of the offer and produce a written opinion. Any claims above $25,000, MDX sends the claim with accompanying records to CPAs who review those types of claims. Based on their written review, MDX determines who is authorized to tender the counteroffer. Approvals are procured if necessary, and then the counteroffer is made. The specific counteroffer and settlement authorities for business damage claims mirrors the property acquisition authorities, such as the executive director can make initial counteroffers up to $350,000 and can settle for $25,000 or $100,000, whichever is greater, of the original counteroffer. This matter was discussed at the Policy and Planning Committee and the Operations and Budget and Finance Committee on October 20th, 2016.
Okay, any questions to staff on this? From the dais? Hearing no questions from the dais. Ms. Gutierrez, Mr. Board, any questions?
None. I would just like to thank staff for producing the material in such quick fashion and allowing all of us to be able to see a little bit of the historical record regarding these matters.
Yeah, and that's the table that was in your package.
Okay, excellent. And I would like to thank during the committee meetings for those members who recommended it, which was a great idea on the behalf of those on the operations. So, and policy and planning. Thank you for that. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, the discussion is closed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes unanimously. Informational items count. Mr. Director, are these things that are in the packet? Does anyone have any questions for staff on the two informational items?
Walters usually has.
Mr. Walters? Thank you. Hearing none, the informational item then is moving on. I have some comments for today. September was an actually extremely exciting month for MDX. We had some really good things happen. Number one, we had a record attendance at our small business conference. And over 260 people were there. Myself and Treasurer Rodriguez Pena spoke at the event, as well as the Deputy Secretary of Transportation from the Commonwealth of Virginia. It was extremely well received, and it was really positive, the outcome. The reason I think so great about it is it's showing that what we're doing is attracting small businesses more and more every day to want to participate in what we do here at MDX. Why? Because we've made it part of our mantra that we're going to help small businesses and we're going to help people get more involved with our system as long as the job is done right. And I think that's a testament to the members of this board, not just the ones who are here today, but the ones who started the MDX board when the things were much more difficult. We have faced some very negative publicity, completely unsupported by the facts. The facts are we have been an agency that has done our job for the citizens of Miami-Dade County. We have done it correctly, and we keep our dollars here in Miami-Dade. That's what we do because we're all Miami-Dade residents. This year we were honored by the Latin Business Association as the government agency of the year. Myself, the director, Treasurer Rodriguez Pena were there to receive the award. We received the award from the Lieutenant Governor, which was exciting to say. And by the way, he said he missed you. He said we were missing our, quote unquote, you were missing your best board member, and we couldn't argue with him at all. Well, I'll say it to you, yes. So, but again, the fact that we were such a prestigious organization awarded us for the first time, and we were up against some very strong other I think the Port of Miami, I believe the airport, Miami-Dade County, and even through all that, we were awarded the award. Why? Because of how well we do our job, how well we work with staff as well. So I'll argue and debate what we do against anybody that wants to take me on, preferably in English, because Spanish is my second language, but I'll be more than willing to debate the issues anytime. You're going to receive, board members, a list from Maria on reference to upcoming events and meetings that are coming up for the rest of this year, I believe. Correct, Ms. Secretary? Please look at it. I want as much participation as humanly possible. Members, if you're not even a member of one of our subcommittees, but you wish to be there and participate, please do so. This debate and conversation is one of the best parts of what makes us great. And as we get to that, 2 weeks from now is Election Day. Many people have died for all of us to have the opportunity to vote, regardless of who you want to vote for. I am not going to stand up here or endorse any of the candidates. The only thing I'm going to endorse is I cannot emphasize how important it is that you exercise one of the most important rights you have as an American, to go out and vote. So if you don't vote, regardless of the outcome, then you really have less to say of what happened. This has been an incredibly negative campaign, and that is a grotesque understatement. So regardless of that, exercise your right to vote. And I think I speak for all board members. I don't think I'm going to mention who to vote for, but please go out and vote because it's your right and it's something that people gave their lives for you to do. And on a more personal note, for the first time in 71 years, the first time in 48 years since I was born in Chicago, Illinois, in a small southern North hospital, the Cubbies are in the World Series starting tonight. So please pray for the Chicago Cubs. Hopefully Johnny Lester will continue to pitch well, but if I didn't say that, I would have really regretted it. So please have a wonderful evening. And yes, Mr. Walters.
To go back to your point about voting
Yes.
and being from Chicago, isn't the saying vote early and vote often?
Well, that's a saying for local elections, not for presidential elections. You only
Same
get
in
to vote
Philly.
once. But vote, at least vote. And with early voting, honestly, all truth be told, early voting, there's no excuse not to vote because you could go right now to the libraries, I believe they're set up, and as well as downtown. It literally takes moments to vote.
County
There's
has
no
them
lines.
online. There's several early voting facilities that started today, and it goes on for the next 2 weeks. But also to the point, I know, because you mentioned it's been such a negative campaign, a lot of people are put off about going to vote because of the presidential election. However, there are critical items on our ballot that impact our local daily lives. Some justices' seats that are up for renaming. And some cities, there's charter amendments in the county. There's a lot of other important stuff that doesn't have to give you a negative feel about going out to vote, so please do.
Please. Yes, Mr. Vasquez.
Mr. Chair, real quick on the announcements, I just wanted to add that on November 10th, the first meeting of the Intergovernmental Committee has been scheduled.
Excellent.
And I invite my colleagues to join us on that day.
Please, and I encourage those who are not members of the committee to participate in all subcommittees because your input is invaluable and it's really appreciated by all.
And this will be the meeting where we're starting to establish the agenda for the upcoming year.
Absolutely.
Not only for local issues, but also for the state. So I would love to have everybody's input that day.
Please, and we're all welcome for that meeting. Any other matters? Again, please, I can't emphasize, you have 2 weeks of early voting to vote. Please exercise your right to go and vote. And I'll say it again, go Cubs. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.